And if you want to be a dynasty Panthers, what does it look like? And usually just signing everybody up is not what it looks like. Okay, I want to wrap this party up with some talk of the Panthers' future, because we've thrown around the word dynasty, and there is going to be dynasty talk. Bill Zito asked by TSN after the game about the upcoming free agents, obviously the big three of Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad, and he said plainly, we can bring all of them back. And I forget who the interviewer was, but he was like, at like massive discounts or something, and he was like, we can bring all of them back. They then spoke to Matthew Tkachuk. They were like, your GM just said he can bring all three of Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad back. That's got to be music to your ears. And Matthew Tkachuk, paraphrasing, was like, you know what's not music to his ears? I tell those guys at every turn to get every last dollar they can get, whether it is here or whether it is somewhere else. I'm a big player empowerment guy. I am pro player. I want them to get as much money as they can get, and I am telling them that much. So Zito says we can keep these guys. Tkachuk says, not if I have anything to do with it, although he did note he would love to have them back. I personally have said they should sign Sam Bennett. I've got some further thoughts to it, but I've said sign Sam Bennett, don't sign anybody else, keep cap flexibility. But let's just park the conversation at Zito says they can bring back all three, should they?
It always comes down to the cost in the term and what it looks like on paper. And I think that knowing Bill Zito and knowing the way that organization has run over the past several years, and why one of the biggest reasons they've gotten to 3 Stanley Cup finals in a row is that they evaluate the cost and they evaluate the potential returns very well on a year-to-year basis. And they don't overcommit to their guys, whether it's Jonathan Huberdeau and projecting what his next contract would look like and the production that he would bring in his 30s. They're very good at being business first and evaluating guys that they can bring in on low cost and take flyers on, whether it's a Nate Schmidt, whether last year it's an Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Like these returns that other people are low on, I don't think that they're going to make the mistake of overcommitting to their own guys just because they're already in the jersey.
Yeah, I think that ultimately the way to keep this thing going, and I've said this the whole way, is keep your key guys, keep cap flexibility, find those players who are going to supplement the roster. And Bill Zito, as you said, is so good at finding who those guys are and then re-signing them on good deals. And don't overpay, or don't even pay to, like, even if Ekblad will give you a good deal, maybe you still say, you know what, we need to have the flexibility. Forsling was great as this series went on, albeit playing with you, but we think we're good. We have Seth Jones. We need to keep flexibility. Brad Marchand, what you just did was incredible, but if you want top dollar, you can't get it here. That's been my mindset. And then I thought about it more today, and then I went to puckpedia.com, and I didn't just look at the cap space. I looked at their draft picks. The Florida Panthers, who famously have the worst prospect pool in the entire NHL, according to The Athletic, have one pick in the first 3 rounds over the next 2 years. A second-round pick in 2026 is the only pick they have in the first 3 rounds. Who cares about the draft if you're trying to win the cup? Well, if you're trying to win the cup, you need ammunition to trade for the next Brad Marchand, to trade for the next Seth Jones. So I actually think that the finding guys thing is going to be a lot harder than it's been. Yeah, you're going to get players late in their career who will say, okay, I'll come to you for $1 million because I just want a shot to win the cup. But maybe this, like, keep this thing going for 9 more years thing is not as easy as I thought, because they don't have the young players and they don't have the ammunition to get the young players or to even trade for guys at the deadline. So you know what? If you want to try to sign all 3, I'm going to understand why you did it. I think that that could be a path to a shorter, I'll say, dynastic run versus dynasty.
Yeah, but I think at some point you are going to need those young players, whether or not you have the draft capital. Like, you're going to have to be creative, because especially when you're talking about these deep runs over and over and over again, that is going to catch up to you mileage wise, health wise. We see it does so often, even with Tampa. Like, Tampa at the end, you were like, oh man, they are running out of gas. And so that's where I would say, you got to get creative and you got to bring in young, fresh legs.
They also don't have a first-round pick for the next 3 years. The other part of that for me is, do you sign these guys and do you trade somebody to try to replenish and that sucks, but I'm just thinking about actual dynasties. And if you want to be a dynasty, Panthers, what does it look like? And usually just signing everybody up is not what it looks like.
It's not what it looks like.
It means staying good at finding the guys, and usually it means having some sort of cheat code. The only recent dynasty I can really think of is the Patriots. Like, that is
and how much turnover was
dynasty.
There? All of those teams looked different.
20 years, they had the best coach, maybe. They had the best player, and that was the cheat code. You could even fuck up from year to year, and you know what? You're still going to go to the AFC Championship. And there was so much turnover, to Pete's point. They were constantly flipping that thing around. They were letting guys go, having them sign big contracts, get released because they weren't good with other teams, then bringing them back for free.
Yeah.
Like,
you have your few
what
centerpieces.
A dynasty looks like.
Like a dynasty has a few centerpieces that you build around, but the parts around it are pretty interchangeable most of the time. And a lot of the times you have to make very difficult decisions with players that you thought were very key pieces to some of these dynasties, or some of these cup winning teams or championship winning teams. You make very difficult decisions to replenish what you're looking towards in the future.
That's the thing. Difficult decisions. And I'm not talking about Boston Red Sox difficult decisions where they're like, we just don't want to have this contract anymore. I mean, difficult decisions where saying goodbye to Brad Marchand. Say Brad Marchand comes back to you and Darren Dreger says that he wants $8.5 million a year. Say Brad Marchand comes to you and is like, hey, I'm going to come back for 3 times 8. And you're the Panthers. That's not a no-brainer to say yes to. You might have to say, like, fuck, like, I know what you're going to do if you're here, and I know what it's going to look like if you're here, but the fucking window.
It really, you can look at that and say, this is a good deal market value-wise, but is it the deal that is this the allocation that most benefits our team? Like, is this going to put us in the best position? And I don't necessarily know if the answer is yes. And that's the decisions that they have to make.
Someone in the chat says, cheat code. Wonder what that could be. I did not say that intentionally. It would be great, though, if they kept Ekblad and let Bennett and Marchand walk, and they were like, that's our cheat code.
Is it surprising to you that the Carolina Hurricanes are opening up as the Stanley Cup favorites next year? I feel like it's very rare.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is.
It is. Yeah, it's rare to me. It's surprising to me.
Well, usually the cup winner or cup runner-up is the
That's what I was going to say. It's like, very rare you see one of the two teams not in the final, not the favorite the next year.
I believe the Oilers opened as cup favorites for this year.
Yeah.
And then they signed Skinner and Arvidsson and kept Henrique, and it was like, oh my God, they're winning 2 cups this year. I don't know what... I think that maybe there's projection in that for picking Carolina.
The only reason it's not
Bennett, Marner.
The only reason it's not surprising to me is because if I don't think they would be my favorite to win the Stanley Cup, but if you were to ask me what team I think is most likely to make it to a conference final, it's the Carolina Hurricanes.
That's a good point.
Like, it seems like you can almost guarantee that they'll get close, but I don't think they're going to win the cup.
We all silly like the mayor.